History often feels solid, unchangeable, carved in stone. But every so often, a question appears that quietly loosens that stone. A question so unsettling that once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. What if one of the most powerful figures in modern history was not quite what we think he was? Napoleon Bonaparte. A name that echoes through textbooks, museums, and battle maps. A military genius. An emperor. A legend. And yet, more than a century ago, a strange idea emerged. An idea that did not deny his achievements, but questioned his very existence. At first, this sounds absurd. Napoleon's letters survive. His wars reshaped Europe. His image is everywhere. But hidden within the archives of the 19th century lies a curious intellectual experiment. One that treats Napoleon not as a man, but as a symbol. Those who explored this idea noticed something odd. Napoleon's biography seems unnaturally symmetrical, almost scripted. His life mirrors patterns found not in politics, but in ancient mythology. His name itself raises questions. When examined through older linguistic roots, Napoleon can be interpreted not merely as a personal name, but as a title. One associated with destruction, power, and light. Throughout classical art, poets and painters repeatedly compared him to the sun. Not metaphorically, but insistently. This comparison becomes more curious when examining the details of his life. He was born on an island in the Mediterranean. So, according to myth, was the solar god Apollo. His mother's name translates to joy, a symbolic echo of dawn. In mythology, Apollo's mother represents the same moment, the birth of light. Napoleon had 4 brothers. In mythological systems, the sun governs 4 seasons. 3 bring abundance. 1 brings nothing. History tells us that 3 of his brothers became kings. 1 did not. Coincidence or narrative design? Even his marriages follow an ancient pattern. The sun unites first with the moon, a union that produces no life. Napoleon's first marriage produced no heir. The second union represents Earth. From this marriage, a son is born. And remarkably, that child's birth occurred on the day of the spring equinox, the moment when light begins to dominate darkness. Then there is the revolution. Napoleon is said to have ended revolutionary chaos and restored order. In myth, Apollo's first great act is defeating a monstrous serpent, a symbol of disorder and darkness. Even language itself supports the symbolism. The word revolution originates from a term meaning to coil or to roll back, a perfect description of a serpent. The parallels continue. Napoleon ruled with 12 marshals. 12 is not a random number. It mirrors the zodiac. 12 celestial forces moving under the sun's command. And his greatest campaign, the march eastward, then northward, follows the same path as the sun across the sky. His advance into Russia resembles the sun reaching its highest point. His retreat mirrors the moment when daylight begins to shorten. In astronomy, once the sun reaches the Tropic of Cancer, it must turn back. Napoleon reached Moscow and turned back, not by choice, but by inevitability. Finally, his end. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Napoleon rose from the Mediterranean world and ended his life isolated in the Western Ocean, on a remote island. His reign lasted roughly 12 years. The same number as the hours of daylight. A full solar day. All of this might be dismissed as clever symbolism, if not for one deeply unsettling detail. In the modern era, researchers performed a strange numerical experiment. They converted Napoleon's birth date and death date into decimal coordinates. When plotted on a digital map, those numbers pointed to one location: St. Helena, the island of his final exile. This is not poetry. This is mathematics. No 19th century writer could have predicted modern coordinate systems. No satirist could have engineered such precision. So what are we looking at? A man whose life was reshaped into myth? A myth layered onto a real man? Or a historical narrative edited far more recently than we imagine? Napoleon Bonaparte stands at a strange crossroads between documented reality and symbolic perfection. Perhaps he was real. Perhaps his story was refined, polished, aligned with ancient archetypes to legitimize power. Or perhaps history itself is more carefully constructed than we are taught to believe. We leave the answer to you. Was Napoleon a man? A myth? Or something in between? History rarely lies outright, but it often speaks in symbols.